is there any progress with what you're doing in terms of that book, Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy? Because for those who don't know, I know a lot of this audience does know. I mean, you name who's responsible, who we need to be going after, where they're located. I'm sure they're not all necessarily located in the same place anymore because it's been a few years since the book was written. But yeah, has there been any progress? And do you think there'll be any progress under this administration? I know Chris said something about I think it would be Roan and Bub finally being awarded things that they should be awarded. So yeah, is this we're talking about things that are going to be a priority. Is this going to be a priority? Because I think some people look at Benghazi as something that, oh, it happened over 10 years ago. It's come and gone. What more is there to be done? And there's a hell of a lot more to be done.
Yeah, let's just talk on three issues. We'll first do the congressional medals. Yeah, so Ronan Bub's medals were approved in 2022. They're actually just waiting to be minted by the US Mint, right? So hopefully the next, the head of the Treasury Department comes in and prioritizes that. We're hoping like we get their ceremony in the next 6 months, right? Like we're done waiting years. Now, when you move into about a year ago, it was November of 2023 that we released the list of the mortar team, right? That were the ones responsible for Ronan Bub's death. A lot of people don't know behind the curtain that we all got back together when that happened. So the whole GRS team, me, the communications officer at CIA, one of the case officers, another one who doesn't want to publicly be spoken about because he's still in the agency. And we actually got together as a group and talked about it because 5 of the members of the mortar team, remember, were family of FBI's witness against the fake mastermind. So they paid a Libyan millions and millions of dollars. They moved him to America. They used him in a court case, which framed a Libyan as the mastermind of our attack, and he wasn't. So he lives here. 5 of his family members were on the mortar team, and at least 2 additional family members were attackers at the consulate, and he gets to live in America. So all
Wow.
of us from Benghazi got together and had a whole discussion, as you can imagine, the security he poses to our families, the lack of justice this is, the fact that they misuse the rewards for justice money that should be used, to find our attackers. And we put together that team letter that you saw. So we wrote the letter up, we all signed it. We sent it to the Department of Justice, basically their Inspector General division. We never got a response. So it has, I think, 9 members of the CIA annex team, and they didn't even give us the decency of a response. So then now the last piece, a third thing that's very important is, so Al Qaeda's planning a homeland attack and the Libyans are involved. So we don't know if any of our actual attackers are coming to the US to be involved, but we know some of our attackers are involved in sending the attackers here. So this is a problem, right? Because we didn't go after them, we didn't get to detain them. They're now coming to kill Americans on US soil. So it wasn't just 10 years ago. This is now going to happen, and there's going to be dead Americans, and they're going to be Libyans responsible for it. And people need to hear that and understand that this is the failure of our law enforcement and intelligence community to be honest about Benghazi and to deal with them as Al Qaeda and to tell the public this was Al Qaeda.
So I know for the last administration, there's political reasons they don't want to go after these people or discuss Benghazi. And I know you've even said that when certain people were detained, Benghazi isn't even mentioned in headlines and that type of thing. We all know Biden was a part of the Obama administration when this happened. I mean, for the current administration, politically, it actually would look good to go after members of the attacks on Benghazi. So, I mean, beyond just the moral implications, like there's political reasons to actually do this that would look good for Trump and the current administration.
It would look good for justice for Benghazi. But remember, the US government's relationship is with the government in Tripoli, and that's the government aligned with Al Qaeda. So right now, our government relationship is with Al Qaeda. If Trump starts going after Libyan terrorists, let's say in Libya first, even though there's some in Afghanistan, in Libya, it's going to look like he's aligned with General Haftar, and the press is going to call that Russian collusion. And that's why they didn't do it the last time. So we're in this difficult situation where the US is aligned with the Al Qaeda government right now in Libya. So first you got to break that, which is complicated, and people aren't being honest about that. Then the only government left is General Haftar, who the US did a bunch of backhanded sanctions and deals, so he couldn't work with any U.S. company. Remember, they even tried charging Eric Prince for having a conversation with him about helicopters, right? So General Hofstadter was forced to use the Russians, and then now we use that against him. And it's like you gave him no option. So it's a very complicated matter if you say Libya. Now, if you say Trump going after the Benghazi attackers in Afghanistan, again, very complicated, right? We spent a long war there. People don't want to go back. I mean, nobody's asking you to go back. We're just asking the start of air operations. But again, the US government is meeting with the Taliban. They're collecting intelligence from the Taliban and they're paying the Taliban, right? So these both Libya and Afghanistan are incredibly complicated because we are actually allied with and funding the terrorists in both countries. And now we're doing the same in Syria. So these have to be major policy shifts. And that's very difficult for any administration, especially this one, who has to fix 30 other things, right? Is their
For
goal
sure.
really going to
Yeah.
be to change foreign policy in 3 countries when they don't even want to be really involved in some of these global conflicts? It's going to be very, very difficult to get this handled correctly.
Thanks for checking out Battle Line Podcast. This is just a smaller clip from our latest episode, which you can check out in its entirety by clicking here. While you're watching, be sure to hit the subscribe button and thumbs up the video to show your support. Now, if you'd really like to help us out, click the thanks button below to make a donation. It goes directly to us in keeping Battle Line Podcast going.